Good morning. Welcome everyone to our first WTH webinar training session. We're so glad to see so many of you joined us today. My name is Leslie and I'll be moderating today. This is the first of a series of 5 webinars. If you navigate to our website, WTHGIS.com, and click on the banner, it will take you to our webinar page, where you can register or explore other topics of discussion in more detail. We have a total of 5 webinar sessions that will cover Think GIS user training, Think GIS editor training, the new address wizard, the parcel split wizard, and thinkgis.com. Our topic for today's session is Think GIS user training, where we will go more in depth on the map index functions, toolbar functions, and layer customization. If there is something that isn't making sense or you would like more information on, we invite you to post a question in our Q&A tab that you can access in the Teams toolbar above. From there, you can submit a question in the side discussion bar. After we are done here today, you will receive an email that will have 2 things. First is a survey link where we ask that you provide feedback on how we did here today. On that survey will also be a section where you can request more in-depth training on some features we may not have time to cover in today's session. If you would like more information, please leave a brief description of what you would like to review so we can have the appropriate team member reach out to you. The second thing to watch for in that email will be a link of a recording of today's session. The link will also be available on our website to access at any time, to review as a refresher, or to use when training new employees. Now I'll turn the session over to Jason. Jason is a senior GIS consultant and customer service tech. He's been with WTH for over 20 years and specializes in land information and utility work. Take it away, Jason.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, as Leslie said, I'm Jason. I've been here a long time. Yeah, many people have. I saw some familiar names on the list of attendees. Yeah, many of you have spoken to me before, and I've known you quite a while. But for those of you that don't, yeah, here I am. But yeah, today we're going to kind of go over the basic viewer training and just kind of go over, how to get around the map, look things up, run some reports, just, any of the basics that that you might need. And yeah, I will say it now and probably multiple times, but yeah, down the road, any questions you ever have, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Yeah, I'm always available, and along with the rest of the service team, to answer any questions you have. So anything you need, let us know. But yeah, first thing we're going to do here is I'm going to pull up a map, and it's just kind of a general map, and kind of go over a few things with it. And you may notice right off the bat that mine doesn't look like yours. Uh, the buttons across the top are customizable, and we can kind of set those up to best suit your needs, to meet your needs. And we are going to go over that shortly. First couple things I want to talk about are, as I mentioned, getting help. The easiest way is, if you're on the phone with us, and you have just a simple question, we may be able to just answer it right there. But if we can't, there could be a, necessity for us to take a look at your map. And in that case, we might instruct you to, hey, go to the top of your map and right up here, go to help. And if we click on help, we get the option for remote support. So if I click on remote support, it's going to take us to our web page, and it takes us to the remote support portion of it for LogMeIn. And if we're on the phone with you, we'll give you a 6-digit code. And once, like if you were talking to me, I'll give you the 6-digit code, type it in here, and click connect to technician. From there, it will kind of open a series of windows, and I will get connected to where I can see your map. Uh, and that way I can go over things with you. We can take a look at any, questions, issues, anything you've got. Um, and from time to time, depending on, how the setup is, you may need IT, help for that if it's locked down a little bit. If you're not on the phone with us, uh, you can click Help and Remote Support, and it'll take you right here. If I scroll down a little bit on the page, the section below says in your name, agency or department, city, state. You can fill this out and click Request Support. From there, that will actually ping all of us in service, and one of us will pick up that session and go through the same you know windows, to accept and allow and hit OK and all that. We'll get connected just like we would if we were on the phone, but we do everything through a chat window. And it may just be a quick question. You type it in, we'll type an answer back. If it gets a little more in depth, we may, say, what's a good number I can call you at? And just send, type in the number to the chat window. We'll give you a call and kind of go over everything, in more detail from there. But just so you know how to get in touch with us. But here, I'll minimize this. Second thing I kind of wanted to talk about at the beginning is keeping your map up to date. A majority of people will have kind of on the basic toolbar at the top, will have a sync button. And you can just click sync, which is going to close down your map, connect to our sync server, and a majority of the time you'll just click kind of next through the windows, and it's going to download any needed data, anything that's been updated, and that could be updates to the program, made by our programmers, or data on the layers from different departments throughout your county or city. If you're like me and don't have the sync button, it's right here at the top, like under File and Synchronize Files. Like I said, the toolbar across the top can be customized, and I have, as you see, buttons for other items that I do quite often, so I didn't put a sync button on mine just to save space. But with the customization that I mentioned, there are a few different things that can be done. One is, whereas, if anything I click on the map, so if I come in here and I'll just randomly click on a spot, so I clicked an address. So it highlights in white here. And then if I click on another spot, you see I clicked another address, and it brings the information over in the left-hand side. It highlighted white here. The one that I highlighted previously switched to yellow. And that's just letting you know that this is an item that, you had previously selected, but it's not the current information that is in the information window on the left. That will always be white. And to control this, see, mine are white and yellow. But up here at the top under Setup, for those of you who aren't, if your map's locked down a little bit, many dispatch machines and things along those lines may not have this option. But under Setup, and right here under Map Settings, it's going to bring here highlight color and highlight color 2. This is the white and yellow that I mentioned. And then you can control background color and everything through here. If you need to, a majority of people will just, kind of leave it as is. But but sometimes you may need to tinker with the highlight colors just to make it easier to see. And changing, changing these colors or any setting like this is just on this machine. It's not going to affect, anyone else's map. It is just locally on your machine. So it is, kind of feel free to make some changes, as needed. And again, contact us with help if contact us for help, if you have questions on that. Then with the buttons across the top here, I'll cancel out of that. Or as I mentioned, the buttons, that is setup and workstation settings. And then under the workstation settings, your menu, which is the row across the top. Standard toolbar buttons are just kind of the default ones that are always there. And you can scan up and down this list. Anything that is on this list that you don't need or don't want, you can just simply uncheck it. Like, I had one, there is a button for locate an address. I generally do that up here in the search bar. So I didn't figure I needed that button, so I unchecked it, which removed that button from the bar. And you can, if there are any on there that you just don't use or don't need, uncheck them and it'll take it off. Down below is the custom toolbar buttons. This is where you can add buttons that for tools that might not be as common, maybe more specific to what you're working on, but they're not in the top under the standard where you can just toggle on and off. And this requires a little bit of setup, add button, and then we go through a menu. Give us a call and we can help you add those buttons at any point. Because sometimes some of them are very easy to add. Some of them can have a few more steps. But just let us know. It's like if you find yourself, going to one of the menus at the top, going down the menu, picking a tool and using, if you find yourself doing that a lot, let us know and we can help you set up a button just to kind of streamline it, make it a little faster for you. Cancel out of that, get back to the map, and then I still have my highlight mark out there. So I'm going to just hit clear right here at the top of my information window, which kind of redraws the map. And many of you as well may also have a redraw button at the top. So anytime you, say click on a parcel or, like county boundary here, once you're done with that, you don't need to see the information. You can hit your redraw button or clear, and that will kind of redraw the map, get you back to kind of a clean slate. So the next thing we're going to talk about, kind of first thing along the toolbar, is the kind of the gray buttons here. These are your navigation buttons and kind of the ones with the magnifying glass. The first one we has kind of the magnifying glass with the plus, and that is zoom in. And I will left click this. As you see, it kind of puts kind of a window, same general dimensions as the viewing window. And anywhere that I left click is going to zoom in to that extent. And if it turns out I don't need to zoom in there, I can just right click and it cancels out of that tool. So now I'm just back on my kind of basic cursor. And it leaves that bar there, but I can just hit clear. And or redraw, and it will kind of take care of that. You can also pick zoom in and use your scroll wheel. So if I use the scroll, roll it forward, makes the window smaller, so it's going to zoom in to a kind of a closer area on the map. And you can kind of just whatever you need, just zoom in and zoom out. If you're on like a laptop, you're not in the office and you don't have a mouse, it is page up and page down on your keyboard. And that will do the same thing as the scroll wheel. So if we wanted to zoom in, I would say like right up in this area here, I'll just roll my scroll wheel, get the window in there, one left click, and it zooms into that location. Zoom out, we just left click. It's kind of programmed in a certain amount that it goes out every time. So we can just keep zooming out as far as we need. And like right there is kind of getting more towards the full county view. But then I'll just hit max view, which takes us to our default view, which in this town is the town of Montezuma. So no matter where we are on the map, zoomed in, zoomed out, anywhere, max view, it's going to take us to our default view. And that is another option that can be set kind of where we went to at the very beginning. Setup, map settings. Right here is a max view set. So if there's, if your map always, like if you hit max view and it goes to a full county view, but you only need to see like one town, like that's all you ever work with. Yeah, you can go ahead and zoom in to what you like, set up, map settings, and just click set and yes. So now every time we hit max view, it's going to go to, kind of changes that to your default. So next over here, we have kind of the magnifying glass with kind of a bent arrow in it, and that is your previous view button. That button remembers the last 7 to 8 views that you've looked at. And so if I start clicking this here, it's going to be, since it's what we've done so far, a lot of zooming in and zooming out. And like I said, after, 6, 7, 8 times, it runs out and so it just doesn't do anything anymore. And that can, so if you have looked up an address and then you want to go back to where you were, just click, if you were at one address, then looked up another address or a parcel, anything on the map, just click previous view and it'll take you back to where you were before. So that way you don't have to, do a search or type in anything. You can just keep just take you right back to it. Next button over is the pan button. And this is a way to just kind of pan around the map. And I would say that this is probably used mostly by those on a laptop or so, kind of out in the field that don't have a mouse. And the way this works is I'll left click. As you see, kind of like zoom in, you get a window around your cursor, and it's the same size as your viewing screen. But anywhere that I left click is going to make that the center of my screen. So if I wanted to, we'll just say head south, I could come down to like this intersection here, left click, and then it shifted the whole map up. So it kind of panned us south. So we could just do pan, and it's just moving kind of south, and I'm clicking along Madison Street here. And yeah, say just kind of just click wherever you need to go, and it will just keep moving you. The alternative to that, it's like if you're in an office with a mouse, is not using the buttons up here at the top, but you can do a lot of this with the mouse. So if I was at max view, where I have just kind of the whole town visible, if I wanted to zoom in, we'll just say like right up here, without selecting zoom in, I could just left click and hold and drag a window. And once I have the window around the area that I want to zoom in on, I just release the left button and it zooms into that area. I can also, instead of like we did here, left click and hold to drag a window, I can right click and hold to pan. And this is going to be, at least for me, quicker and easier than kind of zoom in, come down. Zoom in, come down. Whereas you can just left click and hold, drag a window, and it zooms in. You can also, without a tool selected, if you're in a specific spot on the map and you want to just kind of fine tune it a little bit, just use the scroll wheel. Roll it back, we'll zoom out. Roll it forward, zooms in. You can kind of fine tune it a little bit. So from a max view standpoint, you could say, I want to zoom in down here. Left click and hold, and then fine tune it with the scroll wheel. And then just pan around to what you need. So like I said, that is the kind of the basics of the navigation portion. And again, just, anything that you have questions on, yeah, let us know, and we can definitely, go over your questions with you, and hopefully get you an answer and get you squared away on that. So yeah, so like I said, there are some shortcut keys. So whereas just using the mouse to pan around or zoom in, scroll wheel, some of the other kind of little shortcut keys that you can use, whereas I mentioned hitting clear. So if I, click on a road and it's highlighted, I can come up here and hit clear, but I can also on my keyboard hit Alt R. Like hold Alt, hit R, and that does the clear or redraw as well. And then if you have, made some changes to your layer settings, turn some things on, off, change it a color, which we'll go over. If, you really like the way your map looks and everything, be sure to go to File and Save. And this will kind of save those settings so that they're there the next time you open the map. I say, and again, for those of you who aren't like in a position where you're maybe locked down a little bit to where you can't make changes like that. I know like a lot of, as I mentioned, dispatch positions earlier, a lot of those maps are set a specific way, and you may not be able to hit save. But yeah, if you're not able to save, but there are some changes, maybe like, let us know, and we can kind of look into that to see if that's an option for you. But yeah, just let us know. So the next buttons to go over are kind of getting across the top. We're going to hit the ruler next. This is going to be for basic measurements. So, anything that you might need to measure for any reason. We'll just left click, which activates the tool. So it kind of changed my cursor from an arrow to a little hand. And if I wanted to know, how far it is across this parcel, I'll just come to this end, left click, and I just left click once. I'm not holding the button, and it's kind of pulls this line out. If I go to the other side of it, I'll left click. And then if that's all I need to do, I can continue measuring, but if that's all I needed, I can right click to finish. That lets me know that the portion that I measured was 156.9 feet. And you can then hit clear or Alt R or the redraw button, kind of wipe that out. But if that's all you needed, then you're good. If you needed to kind of a little more elaborate measuring, you can also click multiple times. So if we, left click, just click as many times as you need. And when we right click to finish here, it lets us know what the total length is. for, all of the points that we clicked. So that was, 1,024 feet or 0.9 feet. Yeah. So yeah, just anything you need to measure, just use the ruler, click, click around whatever you need. Um, and again, yeah, anywhere on the map, use it, get the distance, and then clear to get rid of it, to wipe it out and kind of redraw your map. The next one to go over is going to be, and you may or may not have this button here. If you don't, this is the measure area tool. If you don't have this, this would be right up here under tools. So tools and measure area. A lot of the tools across the top are just kind of, I guess you'd say, shortcut keys to items in the menus. So like right here, yeah, measure distance, that's the ruler. Measure area, that's the same as this one here. But this would be, just anything you need the area of. So like we may come to this parking lot right here, and I could left click, left click, left click, and then come along the edge, right click to finish. And that lets me know that it's 0.36 of an acre, 15,672 square feet. Yeah, if you needed that information for anything, there it is. And then again, just hit clear to redraw. We also have the ability, and I have the two buttons added here. And again, yours may look different or you may not have them. But the first one I have is just XY with a question mark and with the cursor. If I select that tool, that is the kind of get latitude, longitude. Like I said, mine is XY question mark. Many others may be a helicopter. The helicopter is probably a little more standard. A lot of people use that. It's because it's used by 911 with lifeline situations. So what it does is it put a kind of a question mark on my cursor, and anywhere that I click, one left click kind of puts the X out there saying that's where you clicked. And from here down the left-hand side in the information window, it gives me the latitude and longitude in 6 different formats. And so, if it was a lifeline situation and, you can radio to a helicopter pilot and just say, hey, we have a landing zone, and whichever format they say they need, you could give them this information and they can kind of fly straight there, as opposed to kind of following highways and stuff as they do. It may shave off a little bit of time, but and then if you ever need that for anything else, if somebody requests latitude and longitude for a specific point, feet, anything out on the map, you could click there and then email them this information. Anything in the kind of the window here, the information window, you can't really click on any of this. Like I'm left clicking here, but if I right click once, it opens this information up in kind of a notepad. So this can actually, you can highlight that, left click and hold, drag across that, right click, copy. So you can then go to an email or anything, paste that into the email and send it on, and you fulfilled the request of the latitude and longitude, because I know that's always easier to me. And those of you that know me know I do as much copying and pasting as possible, anything to keep me from typing, because I will probably mess those numbers up, just if I had to type them over and over. So then I cancel. So yeah, that gives you the option to copy and paste. So the opposite of this where you get coordinates or latitude, longitude for the point you pick. The opposite of that would be the next one here. And if I click this button, this is where you can enter latitude and longitude. So if you're ever given latitude and longitude, uh, you can enter it here. So if someone gives you, degrees and minutes, like this information here, you could put in the degrees, like, 39 degrees and then 47 minutes. And then the seconds on that one, you would leave blank. You only put in the information that you have. So if they gave you degrees, minutes, seconds up here, fill the whole thing out. If, like down here, they just gave you degrees, you would put it all in degrees, leave minutes and seconds blank. Then hit find, and it will zoom to that location on the map and put the white X. And if you have any trouble with that or any questions on that, yeah, again, let us know, and we can always jump on, walk you through it on the phone or do a log me in session and jump on and take a look. So next over here, all the way to the right, we have the search for window. And this is where you can kind of do a lot of searching for anything within the map. So, if you wanted to look up a specific address, like here, I'll do one here. Like I'll just do 1318 in, like I say, and it already found, that's the one I was looking for, 1318 North Jackson Street in Montezuma. So I'll just left click here. It zooms right in on that location, and then it brings up the kind of address information down the left-hand side, saying that is a ball diamond and park. You can also search for parcels. You can search, basically search for about anything in the map that you're trying to find. So if I was going to do a parcel, I could just start typing the number up here. Like I said, I didn't complete the entire 18-digit number, but it's already found it. So I'll just left click here, and it zooms right in on that and gives you the parcel information down the left-hand side. If we were kind of doing, I guess you'd say a more broad search, like, because I had that's been properties owned by the town. So if I just type in town of Montezuma, I can just hit enter there. It's going to give me down the left-hand side everything it can find for the town of Montezuma, which in this case was all the parcels that the town owns, and it highlights them all. And kind of again, going back to the two different highlight colors, you can see here is that, a majority of them are yellow, saying that there's multiple items selected. But if, like, down the left-hand side in the information window, if I kind of just hover, you can see whichever one I'm hovering over uses highlight 1. So that's the one. If you're looking for a specific parcel, you can kind of hover over and it's like, oh, okay, well, that's the one I needed right there. If that's the one you need, just left click. It's going to highlight it and zoom in. And if you need to go back to that list, just hit the back arrow up here, and that will take you right back to where you were. Next, we're going to jump into the layer settings, and I'm going to hit clear actually here to get rid of all those highlight marks. And we'll do a max view to get back to our default view. But the next thing we're going to do is, like I said, layer settings. And this is where you can, I guess, say, more customize the map to look the way that you need it. So the layer settings are going to be right here on mine. It's kind of the pink button with the like 3 pages on it, or 3 layers. And like say, some of you, if you have a different button, it may have like 3 L's for the layers. But it's going to be generally right kind of in the middle of your toolbar here. But if I left click, I'm going to open up the layer settings. And this is where you can really kind of customize the map to look the way that you need it. All layers are listed down your left-hand side. And I will say that layer matter does, or the layer order does matter. If you have, we'll just say one of the layers out on the map is on top of what you're trying, you really want to stand out. With the layer order, the top of the layer settings is actually the bottom of the map. So in this case, like we have a category that says aerials and it's got photography. Photography is the top layer in your layer settings, but out on the map, it's the very bottom. So basically, kind of going down the list here, we would have photography is put down, then the elevations on top of that, then sections, county boundary, townships, corporate boundaries, and it just keeps going down, all the way through all of the layers until like on this particular map, zones is the very bottom. So this is going to be the topmost layer. If, by chance, the layer that you're looking at is getting covered up by other things and you're like, I really need this to stand out more than anything else, you can move it to the bottom of the layer settings, which out on the map would put it on top of everything. So like right here is zones. If we've got roads and highways here, if they're showing up on top of some of the other things. To change that order, the box to the left, like we could take highways and I'll just left click and hold, and you see the blue bar kind of going up. I can just pull it up and release. Now highways is up here. And I could take roads and move it up there. And you can kind of change the order as needed. And then, just to get things in the right locations, on top of, don't want one thing on top of another thing, just change the order. And just to kind of show you what I mean by this is, as we see with the map, we have, photography, you can see parcels, you can see the roads, address points. If I go into the layer settings and grab photography, and we'll just pull it down here and then close. We still have our photography. If I right click and hold to pan, you can still see that the other layers are on. And you can see the address points kind of blip for a second when I release the button. The layers are still there, but because we moved the photography all the way down, they're underneath it. So we'll just take this and move it all the way back to the top, which is also another reason, photography is always at the top because you want everything on top of the photography. So the next thing is the first three columns is on, off, auto. These are, the first two are pretty easy. On and off. On you can see the information on the layer. Off you can't. Auto is going to be a little bit different. With auto, you're going to kind of determine when a layer turns on. So with this, we have the photography, and I'll left click auto for the photography. And right now we have over to the right in this menu, it says max range. The max range is set to 1 mile on this layer. What that is the map is constantly measuring top to bottom. Anytime for this layer, for any time this distance is 1 mile or less, this layer turns on. So that is why if we go to the max view, we don't have photography. But as soon as we zoom in, the photography turns on because this distance is now less than 1 mile. We also have a minimum view. So I believe we have that turned on with the county boundary. So with this particular layer, we have a max view of 50 miles. So anytime this distance is less than 50 miles, the county boundary is turned on. Anytime the with the minimum range of a half a mile, anytime this distance is less than a half a mile, that layer turns off. So this particular layer will only be on between half mile and 50 miles. So that's why here, if we go to max view, and I'll just zoom out even further, you can kind of see where the whole county is filled in kind of a yellow so that you can differentiate it between, outside of the county. But as soon as we hit max view and zoom in a little bit, that turned off so that we don't have that kind of gray, or I say gray, yellow kind of haze over everything. Makes the photography look a little clearer. And, being zoomed in, we know that we're in the county. So it's just, again, just a little ways to kind of customize the way that your map looks. And you can set this with any of the layers. So you can have different layers turn on at different times. Yeah, you don't really want to just go down the layer settings and say turn them all on, because yeah, as you zoom out, it's going to like kind of whenever you hit redraw, it's going to take forever for the map to redraw, and then just panning around, it's going to have to redraw every time, and it's going to take a while, and it's going to get very, very congested. So yeah, I would say kind of less is more. Only turn on what you need to see. Just kind of keep it simple, and yeah, everything's going to look a lot better. Next over is the next three columns. We have line, text, and fill. With the line column, that would be like here. I'll just go back to the kind of max view so we can see kind of like there's a highway coming through. I think that's Highway 36, kind of moving across. If we find the highways and go to the line column, we get line color, line width, line style as our options. So if I didn't want the highway to be orange, I want it to be red, I'll just left click there, and it's 2 pixels wide. Here, I'll slide that down so you can see 2 pixels wide. I'll go to 4 pixels. So now when I close, the line's thicker and it's red. And again, this is just, you can do this with any of the layers. I'll switch this back to the way they had it. But yeah, anything that's a line out on the map, just click the line, pick your line color, width, style, whatever you need. The next one's over text and fill. Like I'll zoom in a little bit more. So I'll just, I will say like right here. With the text and fill, we'll look at the addresses here. We can find the address layer, and like under the fill column, this is just saying fill it in with this color. So if we kind of pan over, I'll pull this over to the side so we can see this. We can see that all of those are filled in kind of that blue-gray color. But if I hit, let's say I want them to be yellow, I'll just click yellow, and then when I close, now all those points are yellow. Now you can see kind of a little bit around the outside that it's kind of bordered in a different color. That may or may not show up well for you, but that's just because kind of under addresses, the line color is that light blue. So you can kind of see there's that really light blue border around the outside. So you could change that color to, black. So now if we close, now it's yellow with a black border around it. And again, just to customize it however you need it. And I will switch this back to the way it was. And then the next, we'll do the text column. And again, color palette determines what color the label is. Then we also have some options like down below. We can make it bold, italic, underline it, put a shadow around it. This is currently the same light blue that the fill was set at, which I haven't, I guess I could refresh so that it fills those in and isn't still yellow. But from here, we can also, like say, we can change the color of the shadowing around it with this color wheel. We can also, if that light blue isn't quite showing up, real well, we could, maybe go lighter. Like I'll choose white. So now when we close, they kind of really pop out pretty well. The other option that we have in here is just below where it says label format. And this is where the label's coming from. So if I close this for a second, and I'm just going to click on one, like this just says 1155. And it's like we can come out here and we know it's on, Madison Street. But if I click on this and I'll select it, so we see it's 1155 North Madison Street, according to the address point. We can come in here and it's just being labeled by the house field. So this house field right here. If I left click here, it brings up the label format. So this is where we can kind of tell the map what we want it to label by. So if I click here and say add field, I also want that directional. And then I'll hit add field again, and I also want the street. Now, just so that it's not all kind of lumped together, I'll put a space in between the brackets and then hit OK. So this adjusted this window here. So now when I close, all of the addresses have the full address instead of just the house number. And again, this is just a way that you can, easily make, customize the layer settings so that it works well and, maybe makes things a little easier for you to see. Next thing we'll go over here is I'm going to hit clear again, is the index. So if I click on the index, again, just like the layer settings, layers are listed down the left-hand side and they're going to be in the exact same order. But with this, any layer that I click on, it's going to give me all of that information down the right-hand side. So I could click on a parcel, I click on the parcel layer. Here are all the parcels for the county. Addresses, here are all the addresses. We do have two search windows. The first search window, because all of the data within the index is searchable. So just to be clear on, we do have two search buttons. The first one here, kind of on the bottom, is a layer search. And by that I mean it searches for a specific layer. I know there's a lot of maps out there that may have 15 layers on them. And there are maps that have hundreds of layers. And when they're categorized like this to where, all the gas layers are together, all the water layers are together, sometimes it can be hard to find one. So in this case, if I was looking for a specific layer, but I just can't find it because it's organized, into oblivion within, the hundreds of layers, we can just come up here and like if I just type in like address and hit search, this narrows my layers down the left-hand side to just ones that have address in it. So now I can find it. And, that can make it, much easier to find a specific layer to work with. From there, we can click on one of the layers, like I'll do addresses. And if I hit the search at the top, this brings up a blank address window to where I can do, searches on that layer. So like, whereas before I did, I looked up an address on Jackson Street. So like, I'll just type in Jackson under street and hit search. And this is, I want to make that window just a little smaller if I can. Well, it doesn't want to let me, but so this is all of Jackson streets, throughout the county. So if I just wanted the ones, in the area I'm looking at, Montezuma, I'll just hold down Shift, select those, and hit locate. So those are all of those Jackson Street addresses highlighted on the map. And then here they are listed down the left-hand side in the information window. We can also, search for parcels. So if I hit, close, I could do a search on parcels. Bring that up and any of the fields. So like again, like we did before, like town of Montezuma, search. There's all of the parcels that have an owner name of the town of Montezuma. And with this list, we have a couple options. I can, from here, I could hit locate all. I can, if I hit locate all, it highlights all of them out on the map. Now, if we hit index, it takes us back to our results. I could come in here, pick one of them, and hit locate, and it will take me to that specific feature on the map. We also have the option to print list. With print list, this opens up this window, and we have the option, kind of few options. We can take all of this data and send it out to a text file or an Excel spreadsheet or Access database. I never do the Access database myself, but yeah, primarily it's the Excel and text. I just pretty much for me and what I do, I do those. But so like here, if I do Excel spreadsheet, I could hit OK, and it's going to open up an Excel spreadsheet with all of this information kind of parsed out, and it's, all of these are going to be your headers across the top, and then, this particular one would have, 19,238 features. But with the kind of, I mentioned the text file, one of the common one is actually more with utilities. We may do water mains, and I'll hit search. We could do like a pipe size, and if I hit the pull down arrow, this is everything that's within the map. So I see there's like they have 4-inch pipe. So if I type in a 4 and hit search, this is just something to keep an eye on. This is all my, I wanted a list of all my 4-inch water main. Well, we did get all the 4s, but we also have 3/4, and I think there's some 1 1/4 because that has a 4 in it. So if I close this to come back and do that search again, I don't just want 4, I want equals 4. So that will search for that exact number. So now we only have 4-inch line. And if I hit print list, text file, do you want statistics calculated? Yes, I do. So, and it opened on the other window. So we'll open this. So this is the text file it brings up, which kind of looks like a bunch of gibberish. But if we go all the way to the bottom, where we hit calculate statistics, This is telling me all those together, it's 5.51 miles of 4-inch water main. And you can run reports like that on anything. Um, and like I say, if you need help with that, give us a call or do a log me in session, and we'll be happy to help you, run reports to pull the data, out as needed. A few other searches that we have would be under, not in the index, but under lookup and down towards the bottom, list features within an area. We have kind of 4 options: draw a radius from a point, draw a boundary, select bounding feature, and specify distance from a feature. The most commonly used search is draw a boundary. So if I select this, it's going to say, what layer do you want to search? And you can pick any layer that you want. I'll do parcels here. And then I'm going to zoom in on an area, and I'll just, because I have that tool activated, I'll just left click, just basically do the corners, go kind of around this block. Then when I right click, there's the list of all the parcels that are within that boundary I drew. And again, we could do addresses, parcels, roads, you know, fire hydrants, anything, anything that's on the map, it will pull up what's in that boundary that you drew. The other would be, here, I'll hit clear to get rid of those highlight marks. And we may, hopefully it doesn't happen, but, just in case, there's a spill on the highway and, bad accident, we could do lookup, list features within an area, draw a boundary, or draw a radius from a point, and we'll do addresses. Like I'll just say, hey, the accident's right here. Now, if I left click and hold, we can see a radius coming out, and down here at the bottom is how far from that intersection I am. So if we wanted, if I go 1,000 feet and release, there's all the address points that are within 1,000 feet of that intersection. So if it was a, bad spill and people need to be notified, we have the list right here. There's 154 address points within 1,000 feet of that intersection. The other ones there were, we're running out of time. Select bounding feature, we'll do that one real quick. Select bounding feature would be anything that you have that is on the map as a boundary. And I'll just pick like corporate boundaries here, and say we could do, Montezuma. Hit OK, addresses. There's all of the address points that are within that boundary drawn on the map. And it doesn't just have to be a town boundary or a city boundary. I know with public safety, like police departments, you may do a search for addresses within, if you have a patrol zone layer, anything like that. And it could give you that. If you have a layer on the map for, we'll just say crime incidents, you could do, patrol zone 1. Give me all the incidents that happened in that, if you have a layer for that, and it would give you those. But yeah, and again, any of the searches or reports that you're trying to run, if you can't quite get what you need and you're kind of struggling with that, let us know, and we can help you out. And that is, I think, all we've got time for today. So I will wrap it up and I'll quit talking. And for those of you that know me, getting me to stop talking is kind of hard to do sometimes. So I will hand it back over for now to Leslie.
Thank you, Jason, for going over that valuable information to help our users become more familiar with features WTH has to offer with our GIS platforms. If you found today's session to be helpful and would like to know more, feel free to hop on our website wthgis.com and register for other webinars we have to offer. Just a friendly reminder to watch for that email with the survey link and a recording of what we learned here in today's session. Any input and feedback is greatly appreciated. We also encourage you to review the recording on our website by navigating back to the registration page where it will soon be posted. If for some reason at some time your company's firewall doesn't seem to allow the email to come through, feel free to reach out to WTH staff members and we can send the links directly. Thank you for your friends here at WTH Technology.